Hey there, in this video we are going to put together some pieces of simplification, including combining like terms and distributing, and we will talk about what we call standard form. So let's start with standard form. So standard form is a way that we write expressions so that their highest exponent on any of the variables comes first, and then it goes in descending order, meaning going down from that highest exponent on a variable to the next highest exponent on a variable, so on and so on. So for example, if we see 5x squared plus 8x minus 9 plus 7x cubed, let's say we do some simplification, combine like terms, distribute, whatnot, and we end up here. We don't want to leave this. Typically, we want to write it in standard form. All right, so to write it in standard form, we would move around the terms, and remember the terms are separated by addition and subtraction. So 5x squared, 8x. Now 9 is the term, but we do bring the negative sign with it. And same thing here, the plus sign would go with the 8 or the positive would go with the 5. But typically you don't write a positive if it's on its own. So for example, the 5, you don't see a plus 5 in front there. So again, 5x squared, 8x, negative 9, and then 7x cubed. Those are our four terms. So we are looking for the highest exponent on a variable. Okay, so again, we want the highest exponent on a variable. And in this case, we have an exponent of 2. We have an exponent of 1 right here, even though that it's not visible. That is an exponent of 1. And then an exponent of 3. Notice there is no x here, so that constant is going to always go last. That is always going to be the lowest exponent on the variable, because if I did have a variable there, it would be x to the 0 power. But again, there isn't one there because we don't leave something to the 0 power. So looking at reordering this, we have 7x to the 3rd power is going to go first. That is the highest exponent. Next, we have this 5x squared. That's going to go in the 2nd spot. So plus 5x squared. Notice the sign in front of the coefficient on the x is going to come with it. So positive 7, positive 5. Next, we have 8x. So this third one is going to be 8x. So we see plus 8x. And then finally, we have our 4th term in this order is going to be this minus 9. So again, that negative does come with the term, and that's going to be at the end here. So our final answer for this in standard form would be 7x to the 3rd power plus 5x squared plus 8x minus 9. So now we are going to look at some examples of putting it all together. So we are going to distribute, combine like terms, and then we will rearrange any terms in descending order so that it is written in standard form if it's not already. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. So we are, like I said, we are always going to start by distributing if possible. So we want to go ahead and look at this, and we see this x in front here, and we can distribute it to everything in the parentheses, every term in the parentheses. Notice it is not going to continue and go on to the 8 and the negative 4x squared and all of that, just to what's in the parentheses. So this x is really x to the 1st power. X to the 1st power times 2x cubed. We add the exponents of 1 and 3, and that's going to give us 2x to the 4th power. Then we do the same thing with x times negative 3x. So that's going to be negative 3x squared when you add the exponents on those x's. And then we still have plus 8 minus 4x squared minus x to the 4th minus 1. So let's take a look then at what we do from here. So we've already distributed, and our second step here is going to be to combine like terms. So I see this x to the 4th and this x to the 4th term. So 2x to the 4th and negative x to the 4th will be like terms. Then we have negative 3x squared and negative 4x squared that will be like terms. And then our constants here, 8 and negative 1, those are our constants, and those are like terms. So let's take a look at combining those like terms. 2x to the 4th minus, this is like a 1x to the 4th. 2 minus 1 is 1, so this is going to be x to the 4th for our x to the 4th terms. Then for our x squared terms, we have negative 3 And -4, when you add -3 plus -4 or do -3 minus 4, you end up with -7. So that's going to be -7x squared. And then 8 plus -1 or 8 minus 1 is going to give us a +7. Now we have no more like terms, so this is combined fully, and we want to check to see if it's in standard form. So the highest exponent on any of the variables is going to be a 4, which means that should be our first term. Then we have a 2, which will be our next term, and then our constant is last. So this is in standard form, so that would be your final answer. So let's take a look then at number 2. So on number 2, we have a similar problem, except for notice that it's in a slightly different place in terms of the distribution. So this time we have this -5 that is being multiplied by everything in the parentheses. So each term in the parentheses gets multiplied by -5. Now the -3x minus 7 plus 8x minus 11x squared is going to stay the same. And then we just go ahead and distribute that -5. So -5 times -1x squared is going to be a positive 5x squared, because a negative times a negative is positive, and 5 times 1 is 5, and then we have x squared on there. -5 times x to the fourth, this is like a 1x to the fourth. -5 times 1 is -5, and then we still have x to the fourth. So that's going to be that term when we distribute. Next, we want to go ahead and combine like terms. So if I start with this -3x, and I look through and I see, okay, here's another x term. There are no other x terms. Now we have this -7. -7 is a constant. There are no other constants. So that is the only constant in this expression. And so it doesn't have any other like terms. -11x squared is going to combine with the other like term 5x squared. And then finally, we have -4x to the fourth power. And again, that one does not have any common or like terms. So let's go ahead and combine what we can. So this -3x and this plus 8x, when we add those together, -3 plus 8 or 8 minus 3 is going to give us 5x. We still have this -7. We have this -11x squared plus 5x squared. -11 plus 5 is the same as 5 minus 11, which is going to give us -6x squared. And then we still have -5x to the fourth power. Now, this is not written in standard form like number 1 was. Notice that our highest exponent is this fourth power on any of the x's, then the second power, then this first power, and then we'll end with the constant. So to reorder that, the negative goes with the 5x to the fourth. So this is going to be -5x to the fourth power first. Then we go to -6x squared. Then we have the positive, so plus 5x, and then -7. And that's going to be our final answer on number 2. So in a quick summary, we have standard form. So standard form, remember, is when we're looking at descending order for the exponent on any variable. All right, so remember, if we had something like 3x squared plus 7x to the fourth minus 2, we would want to go ahead and rearrange this so that the 7x to the fourth is first, because it is the highest exponent on any of the variables. Then next we would have plus 3x squared and then -2. So remember, that sign comes with it. Second thing I want to remind you of the order of which you simplify. So first you will want to distribute any monomials or any binomials, which we'll get to in a little bit in the future. But we want to distribute, and then we will look at combining like terms where we can, and then we end by putting it in that standard form.